Thank you, Brenda. Since I'm going first, I think I have the Hillary Clinton syndrome here regarding this. Also, I should send you an update on my bio. I only have one child still at home now. The other one, I'm paying money into the economy of Charleston, South Carolina. She's a freshman in college down there. So Charleston thanks me very much for my contributions. It's funny, as I look out today, and actually the weather has cleared up. I know this morning when we came in here, it was raining quite heavily. And I'm in my office and looking at my budget, as I know Mike does constantly, and everyone in the counselors here do also. And I have a finance committee meeting tonight discussing a possible override in Belmont, which I'll get into in the near future and later in the discussion. And I'm sitting there, it's raining out, and I'm trying to balance the budget, and I get a phone call, and it's from my daughter, Elena, who is on spring break. And she's down with her roommates down in South Beach, Miami Beach. And she's all upset because it's raining down there, and goes, "What do we do? It's raining down here. What am I going to do?" So I'm looking at this and saying, I've got either a $1 million or a $4.5 million possible override in Belmont, trying to balance this. And you're really concerned about where am I going to go because it's raining in South Beach, Florida. And of course, like a good town manager, I gave her some places to go. And like a good daughter, she goes, "No, I'm not going to go there." So it just puts everything in perspective how a student looks at and what Mike and I look at as far as our functions go. I've been here, this is I think my third year speaking before the Chamber of Commerce, and I've enjoyed it immensely. I know that there's a number of Watertown people here versus Belmont. I know Chief McLaughlin from my Belmont PD is celebrating his first anniversary as the chief in Belmont here. I think he... It's been a pleasure having him on board, both as a cohort and as a friend, and I appreciate the service he's done for the town in the past year. And also, there are some businesses here from Belmont also. We also, I think, have the New Leader Bank here, which is opening in Belmont shortly, and we appreciate their business and welcome them to the community. And there may be some others, and if you're current members, I apologize for not mentioning you. It's kind of like the Oscars. I can only do so many at one point. But as we look at what has happened in 2007 since I've been here, it's a year. And obviously I'll go into some more detail of items such as budget and such in the future. But there are some developments. A year ago we were talking about a new senior center in Belmont. We will be doing the groundbreaking for that the end of March. For those who are familiar with Belmont, it's the old Kendall School site on Beach Street. For those who are newer here, it's just another school site that burnt down in Belmont a few years ago. And we will be opening that hopefully a year from now. Belmont is one of the communities that did not have a senior center per se. We've been renting for a number of years. I believe it's almost 10 years now. The former site of the Our Lady of Mercy down in that area, center facility. That site, as you know, is up for sale. For a possible development. As far as we know at this point, there has been no buyers for the site. The town would like to look at that as a possible housing development, but a controlled housing development for size. But there has been no sale on that property as of yet. But the senior center will be moving to that site in Belmont. It was approximately a $6.3 million project. We have the contractor on board, and hopefully work will begin this April. It's been a long process. Took about a year longer than expected because of tight location and such, but all the details have been worked out and will be going forth very shortly. Also in this area, as we go along the town, it's only 4 square miles, so I don't really have that much area to deal with. The Harvard Lawn Fire Station that is down in that area up on the Cambridge line, the papers for the sale of that should happen, will be this afternoon. That was sold for a single-family house. There is some architect developers from Cambridge who lived in Cambridge who want to actually move back into Belmont, and they saw that as a very interesting opportunity for them to come in. The neighborhood loves it. It's a very nice development. The town ended up selling it for $625,000, and that money will be utilized to pay down the debt on the senior center So for the taxpayers, the implications will be a lot less on that. Also, as we go in this area, and this is a business issue. For those who look at Cushing Square, there's now a business down there called Spirited Gourmet. It is a full-fledged liquor store and gourmet food service. Belmont in the past year was always a dry community. Its reach is now as restaurants, it has licenses, and other places beer and wine license, but it never had a retail establishment. Town meeting and the electorate allowed the town of Belmont last year to issue 1 all-alcoholic license and 2 beer and wine retail licenses. After a number of applications by various businesses, the Board of Selectmen in Belmont issued 2 licenses, a all-alcohol retail license to Spirited Gourmet in Cushing Square at the former, dating myself here, Conrad Chandler Building. And they worked very well during the Christmas holidays, and we very appreciate their business there. A second beer and wine license, the first beer and wine license was issued to a business that hasn't opened yet. They are constructing it down in Belmont Center, a small beer and wine facility that also will sell cheeses and those types of foods. We do have 1 beer and wine license left in town, and obviously, if there's a business that's interested in moving to Belmont, the board will very much like to look at that and would be very interested regarding the license, but there is still 1 beer and wine license open in Belmont. Also, since I have the businesses here, we also have 1 full all-alcohol restaurant license left in Belmont. The problem with Belmont restaurant licenses for all alcohol is you need a minimum of 130 seats. Belmont is very difficult to get unless it's new construction, to get a facility that has 130 seats there. The Savino's Grill in Cushing Square just met the 130 seat requirement. And there's a new restaurant in Belmont Center which isn't constructed yet, which we hope to have ready by the end of the summer, which will have 130 seats. But there is still 1 license left out there that's available, and that the town would very much be interested in getting another restaurant in the town to acquire that license. On that area, well, we're still in the Cushing Square area, and, excuse me, I'm actually fighting a little cold, so I apologize for that, is something which just came up before the Board of Selectmen Monday night as a presentation, which does affect Watertown and the businesses. And this is what we hope is something as we work in a partnership with you, because we think it will also benefit the town of Watertown. If you look at Cushing Square, and we all know where the former CVS building is in Cushing Square. Last year, the town of Belmont rezoned that area of Cushing Square from CVS all along down Common Street around to the parking lot, the municipal parking lot, as an overlay district, which would allow a mixed use of retail and commercial development, The developer of that site came in with the Board of Selectmen Monday night to make his presentation, his preliminary presentation. And he is looking at this point to develop retail on the first floor, all the way from CVS down toward the parking lot, somehow try to acquire the parking lot through the town to build an underground parking garage on the site and have 150 apartment units on the upper levels. This would mean basically tearing down all the buildings along Common Street, where Tops Cleaners used to be, and there's the vacant lot all the way through there, closing off a part of Horn Road, which is the road that goes between what used to be CVS and the laundromat, and that road would be closed off to the homes, to where the homes reach, and then it would start up again. He's looking at this project. The board is very interested in that. There's a possibility of that adding an additional $1 million according to the developer, to the town of Belmont, tax-wise, not even including what permitting fees and license fees and so forth. But that's something that we also see as possibly helping the town of Watertown, because you have businesses in Watertown and operations that we don't have in Belmont that I would also see some of these residents utilizing, because you're just going right over the hill. It's actually, during the summer and spring, it's a nice walk. I take it down to the center and utilizing your services in that area. So I look at it as very much helping to a degree, the town of Watertown in those cases. I mean, look at myself. I spent New Year's Eve actually having dinner with my wife at Casa del Pedro in Watertown, only because, like parents with their first college student back, she went out to some party in Boston for New Year's Eve. My son was out, and you obviously want to be around because she's going to get lost driving in Boston, or the car's going to get towed or something like that. Well, she actually did get lost, and we were lucky the car wasn't towed. But so you have that sharing of Belmont and Watertown that you can utilize the services in Watertown very much so. So we're looking forward to that. That will be a process that will possibly take a couple of years. Obviously, we have to go to town meeting for the parking lot issue to get the parking lot into the hands of the developer. But that's still a ways off, but we're very interested in looking at that. Other areas that we're also in the past year we've had, and this has been a fun project, and we've had a couple of these in Belmont, and has been reading in the papers, a lot more areas have been having it. We've had we're trying to promote Belmont with movie visits, having production companies coming into the community. We had PBS come in and do a documentary using Town Hall, and I think some of you are familiar with it. It's very Gothic looking, very historical building. Used it in a documentary, I believe, regarding the Cold War. And they used our offices because it looked very much like a 1940s university setting. So that worked out very well. We had a film come in just recently in the past summer. We hope it does well. Generally, sometimes the films that come in Massachusetts don't do that well, but we hope this does. I think it was Dane Cook and Kate Hudson came in and they used Belmont Center for that. And they did filming there. That helped the businesses down there. The Business Association actually received funds from the production company to film there, received credits for the businesses they utilized, besides the production crews using the businesses there for food, services, and so forth. We just recently had, about a month or two ago, we tried to get this new, I think the movie's now called Ashcliff. The book was called Shutter Island. That's starring Leonardo DiCaprio and I forget who else. They were looking for what they called a former mental health institution for filming. And actually, no kidding, we actually looked at the police station and the electric light company as buildings that you could look as institutional. I mean, this is what's going into. I'm looking at this and I'm very jealous because if you can...
I am too.
Yes. So we're now looking at promoting at historical buildings to have businesses come in. Actually, that crew went to Worcester, and Worcester turned them down, and they actually ended up, I believe, at Medfield State Hospital. But it's very good, I think, for the promotion of the community to utilize that, and we're doing that as a fun promotion. Other things that we're looking at that isn't as impressive, but it does help the community. The chief and I are looking at, and I believe you have this in Watertown, is an emergency phone notification system. Not just emergency, but informational for the town residents. We just recently had a possible abduction in Belmont about 3 weeks ago, and the school had an emergency notification system that went out basically just to the students, parents, and such. It doesn't affect the whole community. The chief was ahead of the game when he first came on here in Belmont a year ago, is that he looked for a federal grant to try to receive this notification system, but we recently were notified we did not receive it. So we have it in the budget for next year. But we're looking at this system that's not just for emergency notification, but also helps the businesses in the community too. Because besides the notices of possible abductions or missing children and such, the system can also put out to all the residents in the businesses if there's snow emergencies scheduled. So you're not going to be caught off guard that you don't know if the snow emergency, your employees come in, you park somewhere, and next thing you know your car is being towed or being ticketed. Information that goes out to the residents, that they're, based on the election, please be aware of the town election that we've changed your precinct voting, even though you know about it, but just the day before, just remind you it's at the fire station this year, not at the All Saints Church. Things such as that. And those are things, areas that involve the community. It makes the community know that you care about them and you're showing an interest in them. So the chief has been on that. In fact, this afternoon we have to go back and look at another system on part of the program right now. Also, this is the tough part. Operational overrides. That's, I would say probably there's 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, and most of them are having operational budgetary issues. Belmont had a plan for overrides for the next year. Would be that in April, at the annual town election, which in Belmont this year has no competition for any seats whatsoever. Selectmen, library trustees, it's no competition, no issues. I know Watertown doesn't have issues during elections, so it says, but there's nobody running for seats. And this is actually the third straight year that I recall for selectmen that there has not been competition in Belmont. And this has been, in fact, 2 of the seats this year and last year were open seats. And generally that's unseen in most towns where you have an open seat for election and one person runs. So we had on the election ballot we were considering is the roads override. I know Mike had talked to me about 2 years ago. Belmont had talked about putting a roads override on the ballot. And it happened and it lost. We re-looked at it. We did a whole program. We made a 25-year plan of what roads we would do. We know which roads would be in the program. We did a very good job of putting this together. So the plan was to do a $2.5 million override, which would carry over basically forever, to get $2.5 million in roads every year. And that was to be on the April ballot. In November, there was supposed to be an override, once the state approves it, for reconstruction of the Wellington Elementary School. That's the former Belmont High School back in the 1960s. That's an elementary school now by St. Joseph's Church. And then April of next year is due an operational override. Well, we did our budgets, had our revenues, and as of Saturday, we were still approximately about $1 million out. The town side we made $350,000 in reductions in the town side. That was our target to reduce. And the school department had, I think, approximately $650,000 in reductions to make. And we're meeting with them again this evening to see what they come back with. If they can't make the reductions, there is a possibility that there'll be an operational override on the ballot come May. But the operational override may not be just for the $650,000 or the $350,000 for the town, but it may be an operational override that covers a number of years. Because literally, at least in my sense, and Mike understands this too, if we're just filling the hole for this year, you're going to have the same problem next year, because you're using a lot of one-time funds to balance the budget this year, and those funds aren't going to be there next year. So there has been discussions that the operational override could be in the upwards of $3.5 million, upwards for $4.5 million in Belmont. So if you put that on top of the $2.5 million roads operational override, and looking at the probable override for the Wellington School in the fall, there's a number of areas that the town has to attack. And that doesn't take into consideration the new police station or the renovated police station, depending upon how the project comes out, that the board is looking at in the near future, I would say in the next few years. The library, which has been approved by the state for, I believe, at least a $5 million reimbursement. That was, I believe, at least a $22 million project, I believe, $23 million project that would also have to be on the voters. You have a DPW site in Belmont that is hidden away. I mean, you did a wonderful job on the DPW site in Watertown, and I commend Mike and his team for doing the DPW site there. Ours in Belmont is a little more hidden. It's one of these projects where it's out of sight, out of mind. So a lot of people really don't know how bad it is until you actually drive down there. And these are projects that basically probably should have been taken care of in a process over the past 20, 25 years. But unfortunately, like for infrastructure, if you don't take care of that in your facilities, they all seem to collapse simultaneously. We just did the 2 fire stations that had to be, three fire stations, which we sold, but built 2 new ones, which had to be done. The 2 town hall buildings had to be renovated, they were done. And all this is occurring in a 5-year period. So unfortunately, it puts a great deal of pressure on the taxpayer to pay for these when, in actuality, some of these items, including the roads, probably should have been paid for by my father. So actually, if I'm saying I'm paying for the sins of my father, I'm probably literally paying for the sins of my father, who grew up in Belmont. But unfortunately, these things have to occur, and we are looking at that. So the issue with the override in Belmont, I'll have a better feel at the Finance Committee this evening whether one will be occurring for the operational side, but it's sounding more and more likely that there will be, but the number hasn't been determined yet. But there are some good things going on, as we stated, and I have a good team, and I know Watertown has a good team, and they're looking at the same areas. The one thing, though, is I'm very jealous looking at the new police station back here. I'll wrap up with this. And I apologize, as I was stating at the table. I hope if anybody from Belmont is watching this and they see me standing next to the police station, I know there are people from the school committee and the library department saying, wait, what do you do with the new police station? You jumped in front of us? And but that's very nice, and I wish you the best with the station. And I know the chief very much is looking at it saying, that's what I want for Christmas. So thank you very much. And Mike, I leave it to you. And thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Tom. Our next speaker today is going to be Michael Driscoll, the town manager for the town of Watertown. Mr. Driscoll has worked for the town of Watertown for almost 31 years. Last month, Mike began his 16th year as the town manager for the town of Watertown. As town manager, he has strived to provide a clear picture of the town's commitment to sound financial management and fiscal stability, to address the town's capital equipment, facilities, and infrastructure, and to provide the highest level of services to the citizens of Watertown while utilizing the taxpayers' dollars as efficiently as possible. At this time, may I introduce to you Michael Driscoll, Town Manager for the Town of Watertown.
Thank you, Brenda. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. I didn't realize that when Brenda spoke in the opening remarks, this has been the 10th year of the State of the Town, so I don't know where the time goes when you're having fun doing 10 years of listening to myself and the town administrator from Belmont, whether it be Mr. Kleckner or in this case Mr. Younger. I've got about an hour and a half worth of presentation and looking to do it in about 20 minutes. We've got about eight topics I'd like to kind of bring, walk through and kind of, if you will, fly over. Before I start, I certainly would like to, there's been a lot of progress made in Watertown. There's a lot of progress since last year. There's a lot of progress to get done. We have today with us 2 town councilors. We've got Councilor Angie Canellis and Councilor Steve Corbett are with us today. As we move forward, because of the how much I want to cover, I'll certainly, as we're coming to the various, when we get to the community development planning, I'll certainly introduce Mr. Watson, but instead of, in an effort to kind of move this process along, the first item I want to talk to you about is finances in Watertown. One of the things we talked about, Mr. Younger mentioned about operating overrides. I spoke to you last year. And in April 1, 2006, the Boston Globe had put an article in the paper indicating that out of the 351 cities and towns, 164 of them had attempted overrides. Almost half, if you will, of the cities and towns in the Commonwealth. In Watertown, that hasn't occurred. In fiscal year 2007, we had full funding of all the positions. In fiscal year 2008, we lost some positions within the school department. Some of it was attrition, but we've done to date, we're very proud of the fact of staying away from the operating override issues. With respect to fiscal year 07, which ended June 30th, 2007. The revenues in Watertown came in $1.7 million over budget. They were related to taxes coming in over budget about $473,000, local aid over budget about $125,000, and local receipts is $1.1 million. One of the things that we had happen in fiscal year '07 was we had budgeted investment income at $400,000, and we actually brought in almost $1.2 million. So that $800,000 over budget was very significant. Additionally, we did receive monies of $549,000 from the school building authority, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, when they did the final audit. Some of our monies from our investment, from our interest borrowings, we were provided monies that weren't budgeted. So that was helpful. With respect to the other side of the equation, the expenditures, we spent $384,000 less than budget. So revenues over budget were $1.7 million. Revenues under budget, $384,000. During fiscal year '07, we utilized, in fiscal year '08, we utilized $1,750,000 of free cash. So when you add up the two positives of $2.1 million, we used $1.7 million to provide the services to the community. We actually increased our unreserved fund balance, which was beginning in June 30 of '06, $7.4 million, up to $7.8. And one of the things the town council, I spoke about this last year, the town council's policy guidelines that they were looking to have was to have unreserved fund balance in order to respond to emergencies and other unanticipated needs, preserve financial flexibility, and maintain favorable bond ratings. The town was looking to the town council to adopt a policy guidelines indicating they'd like to have an unreserved fund balance of 7 to 10% of the general fund budget. As of June 30th of '07, the town's unfunded balance was 9% of the general fund budget. The next topic I want to talk about is taxes. One of the things that we've got today, one of the first department heads I'll introduce is Dan Laughlin, our chairman of the Board of Assessors. We're very fortunate Dan's in the back of the room there. In fiscal year 2008, what happened, the assessors have completed the annual valuation update. As a result of the analysis of the residential property sales that took place during calendar year 2006, most of the residential assessments in Watertown were adjusted downward between 3 and 8%, below the fiscal year 2007 assessed values. The commercial property assessments were held pretty steady. As a result of that, the residential tax rate went from 10.45 to 11.39, and the commercial rate went from 1915 to 2101. An early analysis of the residential assessments during calendar year 2007 reveals a further decline in the residential market. One of the things that, Dan does a good job for the community, and one of the things I always like to kind of put together is when folks talk about the taxes are high. And I've never heard many people say the taxes are too low. And but in essence, the average tax bill in Watertown for fiscal year, when we were doing the tax rate for fiscal year 2008, the fiscal year 2007 average tax bill in Watertown was, after factoring in a residential exemption, which allows for, if folks are living in the home, they get a residential exemption, the average tax bill in Watertown was $4,200. Now, comparable communities, we feel very comparable to, I'll start with Newton, is at $7,600 versus our $4,200. Belmont, 8,002. Well, ours is 8.2. Anyways, we had different math in Watertown, but and it may be 12.2 after what I heard about all those operating overrides, and then and then in Arlington, the Watertown says 4,200, and in Arlington is 5,300. We're a little higher, if you will, than the city of Waltham, Cambridge, and Boston. But again, the average tax bill in fiscal year 2007 for Watertown was $4,200. The next item I want to talk about is the infrastructure. Tom talked about infrastructure, have to improve, making sure that we're dealing. One of the things the town council has been very insistent on was dealing with the fact of trying to not defer maintenance, recognition of capital costs or items to future years. That in essence, it'll come back, and unfortunately, everything will come that Mr. Younger alluded to will come crumbling down. all at one time. With respect to the police station, I want to hold off and speak to that at the end. In June of this year, the town council appropriated a loan authorization on almost $1.5 million. Some of the items that we've done is administration of the town hall, where the primary issue was to do interior painting of all of the offices within town hall, the council chamber. School building improvements, another $300,000 to make renovations to the school buildings. I'll talk about that in a moment. At our senior center, some improvements to the HVAC and interior and exterior painting. As you recall, the town had built that senior center in 1993, so it was time to put some 1011 care in with respect to the painting about inside and outside the building. There was additional monies for fire alarm, underground duct, and a couple of pieces of public works equipment. Additionally, the council in October appropriated some monies to do a record management study. We're having a significant issue. It's the same entity that Watertown Savings Bank uses, which is King Informational Systems. We've got records everywhere, and we've got to figure out what we're doing and what's the most efficient way to keep those records and have an opportunity. That study is supposed to be done the end of this month. Council Corbett and Council Lawn have been kind of working with the Human Services and Economic Development to working to determine, once that study comes in, as you know, we've got two of our former branch libraries that are vacant. So before the council moves forward with a recommendation how to use that, we need to have an opportunity to know what's the best way to move forward with our record managements. With respect to the school capital projects, the funding, the $300,000 this summer, that was, since 1995, the town council has appropriated $46.7 million to the schools for either renovating and expanding for the schools for the children in Watertown. That is a significant investment. It continues to grow. Now we're into a mode, if you will, of protecting the town, the taxpayers' monies, the $46.7 million. The next topic with respect to infrastructure, Tom alluded to, Mr. Younger alluded to earlier, is our streets and sidewalks. That's the number one priority the town council has in the budget guidelines for fiscal year 2008 and fiscal year 2009. In the current budget, the council appropriated monies to do a roadway management study. Subsequent to the completion of that, it would be moving forward at this point in the budget for council consideration between now and the end of June is a $5 million loan authorization to start that opportunity. You'll see later on in this report that one of the things we have in is we're looking to possibly consider doing a loan authorizations, $5 million for the next 5 years. Do I think we'll be able to do $5 million for the next 5 years within the confines of 2.5? Probably not. But to the council's credit, it's their number one priority. We need to determine how best to proceed with that. One of the things that we also did in 1999, I spoke before here, we had done a facility assessment study of 21 of the town buildings, basically to determine what needed to get done. If in fact a boiler should be looked at, that's a $30,000 item today, and if it doesn't get repaired, it's going to end up being $300,000. The town council wants to know about it. So in 1999, we did a study. This past year, the council appropriated additional monies. We had a study done. The study itself, if anyone wants to read it, is 212 pages, all kidding aside. The value for improvements to the buildings over a 10-year period of time, preventive maintenance to protect the taxpayers' investment was identified as a $14.5 million. So $14.5 million spread over 10 years are items that, for instance, the new library, which I'll talk about toward the end, the only thing in there was replacement of the carpet. And so a lot of the monies that are spent on that, the public works facility, not a lot of preventive maintenance or things that have been identified, some other the schools, protecting that $46 million that the town council had voted on. The next item, and I'm speaking as fast as I can, is community development and planning. We've got with us today the community development planning director, Greg Watson, sitting here. In some of the focus, one of the things the town council did in fiscal year 08, one of their number one budget goals was to strengthen the capacity, including staff of the community development department, in order to improve long-range planning, stimulate economic development, and enhance enforcement of the zoning ordinance. So this year, in fiscal year 2008, we added an additional staff member in the community development planning. To that end, about the long-range planning, the town council also in March had passed a moratorium on Pleasant Street, improving a temporary moratorium on the construction of multifamily residential apartments and condominiums to allow for a study to occur, the Pleasant Street corridor study. In an opportunity, what the study was looking to do, the moratorium, was to develop some zoning in a plan that would be consistent with sound land use planning goals and objectives. And to that end, one of the things, the study, our local firm, Sasaki, obviously a nation international firm, but it certainly also has offices in Watertown, did the study. What's going on right now is the Community Development Department is working with Town Council to move forward with the recommendations associated with the plan and continue to work with the council to adopt zoning that would be consistent with the studies. With respect to the zoning, what is similar to what Mr. Younger mentioned earlier down the on Cushing Square, was moving forward with creating more opportunities for mixed-use development and providing incentives for development that would actually inform our industrial zones in I-3 to moving it more to a mixed-use development. So certainly that's ongoing. The Pleasant Street corridor, in my estimation, is our last chance in Watertown of really, that's one of the areas when you talk about 4 square miles, it's an area that's a focus point that the council will continue to work with Community Development Planning Director, working with council in that matter. Segueing right into the Pleasant Street corridor is to talk about the Pleasant Street itself. And I tease Mr. Watson, I tease Mr. Me. We are at the verge, if you will, of getting that long-awaited Pleasant Street project moving forward. The cost of the project is $9 million. One of the things that Mr. Me spoke at the last council meeting, indicating there was supposed to be a bid date of late February. Well, it's early March, and the bid date hasn't come. So I tease both of them that their children will be graduated. Greg's youngest daughter's in the 3rd grade, and she'll be out of high school by the time it gets done. So, but in essence, that is a significant issue. The town council accepted easements from property owners along there, free of charge, if you will, allowing the project to move forward. And certainly, the Department of Public Works should be commended for. Since 1993, the town has been very aggressive in obtaining federal construction dollars for Galen Street, Watertown Street, North Beacon, and now Pleasant Street. So certainly that's, as everyone who's driven on that road well knows, that it's a long time coming, and it's very, very exciting that we will look to have that get done. A couple of other things that on Pleasant Street, again, is the Beacon properties, as you know, at Repton Place. They are actively selling 187 of the units down there. The phase 2, given the economy at this point, has been put on delayed, if you will, but ultimately there'll be 385 units. So the 187 that have been built and the remaining almost 200 would move forward. Another project in Watertown on Grove Street, the aggregate site, has been sold and changed hands several times. Right now, the current owner is Hanover Company. They're before the regulatory boards are looking for approval of 174 luxury rental apartments. There's been discussion before the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Department about moving forward with that project that would certainly, if in fact it was approved, would provide 17 affordable housing within that 174 units, but also would be looking, if there is consideration to move forward, there'd be a substantial contribution to mitigating traffic-related items at several key intersections affected by the proposed developments. With respect to Public Works, I'll speak. One of the things that Mr. Younger talked about today when his daughter called him from Florida and indicated there was raining. That's the bad news in Florida. That's the good news in Watertown and Belmont, that it's raining, it's not snowing. In essence, right now, our current snow and ice deficit is $400,000 and growing. The council appropriated $548,000, and when it's all said and done, given it's March 5, we'll probably end up spending over $1 million. Certainly the council had requested last week that they were going to write a letter to the Commonwealth, to the state senator, state representative, looking to see if there's an opportunity to provide some state relief. That's one issue that certainly Watertown does many things very well, but the Public Works with their snow and ice removal The other item, without going and trying to condense a lot of these things that the Public Works is working on, is Coolidge Square. The town council appropriated monies to do a ongoing study, analyze for safety improvements that include incorporating into the roadways, street lighting, traffic lights, potential changes down there, evaluating the parking and traffic flow in general, and pedestrian safety. The town has used Edwards and Kelsey to gather the statistical information, and that the town anticipates the first review of this project to take place in the spring when the consultant will be able to address the findings in a draft report to the town. Moving on to public safety, with respect, a couple items happened in the fire department since we last talked. Well, actually, in the fiscal year 2008 budget, both the police and fire department's budgets were funded to maintain the existing staffing levels in '07, which was a significant accomplishment. Both of those departments, overtime was cut, both in the fire and police. We're dealing with that right now, and quite honestly, in the fiscal year '09, we've got some issues trying to maintain staffing throughout town-wide, but in fiscal year 2008, both the police department and the fire department had maintained the existing staffing. With respect to in the fire department, things are significant since we last got together. A couple of them is the fire department received a federal grant for the second time in 3 years from the Homeland Security Assistance to Firefighters Grant. The competitive grant was over $59,000, which will allow for the purchase of new state-of-the-art thermal imaging cameras that will aid the firefighters in searching smoke-filled areas. We've currently got them. There's an opportunity to upgrade those. Additionally, purchase of breathing air cylinders for the fire department. And lastly, there'll be a 3-day training for all firefighters on emergency vehicle operations, instructed by a nationally accredited professional instructor. Additionally, another item of note in the fire department, in this since we last talked, is that town council appropriated monies for a training officer. So now in 2007, the department has appointed its first full-time training officer. Responsibilities include standardized training for all members of the department, and certainly it was something that Fire Chief Arangio had been looking for, as well as his predecessor, Fire Chief McCaffrey, for quite some time. 2 other new pieces of apparatus arrived in the fire department as a result of town council's appropriations. One was the purchase of a new 100-feet aerial truck, which is replacing a 1989 ladder. Additionally, the town took possession of the delivery of a new ambulance, which is a 2008 model. Our other ambulance was of needed to be replaced, if you will. With respect to police department, I certainly are going to hold off on comments about the police station, but as you recall, I mentioned previously, the police department is one of the that reaccredited out of 23 law enforcement officers that have agencies out of 400 that get reaccredited. I had spoke about Chief DeVoe and the leadership and the men and women of the department. Attaining that state accreditation is one form of proof of the professionalism in the police department, and the accreditation, as indicated last year, can only increase the confidence of the general public in the effectiveness, efficiency, and responsiveness of the police department. One of the things that the police department continues to do, what other police departments in the Commonwealth haven't been able to do, is continue to run cops and kids programs. The Citizens Police Academy begins starts this week, the 25th class, which is an opportunity to reach out to the citizens to learn a better understanding of the police department. We've got council still continue to funding school resource offices in a high school, middle school, and elementary school. All of the programs, I can't list them all here to moving forward, but a lot of the programs interacting with the police department, with the community and community policing is continuing, and very, very pleased with that approach. Last week, you might have seen our police chief was interviewed in Channel 5 as that one of the police departments that was received an award, the MAD award, for the efforts, is one of the 15 departments in their efforts to campaign to reduce drunk driving. And certainly one of the things we're also doing, which is unique, we've got a jail diversion program, is one of the very few departments, police departments in the Commonwealth that are have partnership with a social worker working with the police department 40 hours a week. And certainly it's a very, in this day and age, the social work and moving forward with some of those issues are very, very important. With respect to our schools, the town council in fiscal year '08 appropriated $30,621,000 to operate the schools in fiscal year 2008. One of the things going on in the schools is they just finished last Saturday their second community education planning seminar, which kind of getting back to refocus on where the goals and objectives they're looking to move forward with. One of the things that they've done, the school department, Dr. Hershey and the school committee have implemented a new mathematics program in the schools, which was a result of a collaborative effort with the school teachers developing a teacher task force that identified a program to support differentiated classroom instruction. It's moving forward with that. Additionally, as a reading task force, certainly looking to improve the performance within the schools is ongoing right now. The MCAS scores in the middle school this past year showed a dramatic improvement after implementing a support program that is part of the school day at the middle school. And then lastly, within the school department, as technology is becoming part of the everyday life of the students and the staff, one of the issues that we're wrestling with right now is looking to try to provide additional technology within the school department for the utilization of the school children. With respect to human services, I'm not going to have an opportunity to go through all of them. I would like to acknowledge we've got our Director of Public Health here today, Steve Ward, in the back of the room. In my estimation, has been here since 1995. And no one works harder in the community, and it continues to do a lot of educational programs within the Department of Public Health. Hazardous materials program is in its 8th year. Currently the health department has licensed approximately 170 hazardous material facilities within Watertown, and the focus point, the health director Ward and the Board of Health is on education, whether it be hazardous material programs, the tobacco regulation, in a variety of other programs that, and again, I want to applaud Mr. Ward for his efforts in improving the quality of life for the citizens of the community in the Department of Public Health. With respect to moving right along to fiscal year '09 budget issues, and I spoke about this last year. Mr. Younger touched upon what Belmont's wrestling with right now. We presented in October our forecast for fiscal year '09, which begins in July 1, '08. We had revenue increase of about 2.7% was forecast back in October. Unfortunately, the expenditures are forecast to go up 5.10%. So there's a gap right now of $2.2 million. The issues themselves are as follows. Health insurance costs, which I'm going to speak to briefly, collective bargaining, the retirement appropriation, capital project funding, the reuse of the town buildings, which we talked about, whether it be the branch libraries, the uncertainty of future local aid. One of the issues going on, whether it be in Belmont, with the town of Belmont, Mr. Younger, or ourselves over here in Watertown, is the governor in his budget has proposed increased Chapter 70 monies by $300,000. That's good. We'd like to add a zero, but it's a $300,000 increase. But in the budgets, the governor's proposed budget is recommending level funding lottery aid. In Watertown, in fiscal year '08, current budget, we receive about $3.5 million from the lottery to provide the support or the revenue. Unfortunately, when we talk about level funding lottery in fiscal year '09, there's two components to it. You've got A and B. And B is part of the lottery monies is from gaming receipts. And you've all seen it's going right now, what's that ongoing discussion. The concern I have, and I'm assuming Mr. Younger has, is the way that budget right now is set up, or the forecast the governor has. It's got $3 million in one category and $467,000 related to gaming. So if that doesn't come forward, there may be an opportunity where we would lose that $467,000, and that would be a significant concern. With respect to health insurance, I mentioned this last year. We in Watertown and in many other communities could not continue to provide the current level of services to the community with our employees only paying 10% for their health insurance and $5 for copay. Just cannot happen. I said this to you a year ago that it wouldn't happen, and quite frankly, I'm very pleased to indicate that and thank the employees in the negotiation process that most of our town employees today are paying a $15 copay versus $5, and paying 20% for their health insurance versus 10. I mean, that's still a lot of folks in private industry are paying significantly more, but that change is significant, and it helped us, quite frankly, balance the fiscal year 2008 budget. That's the good news. The bad news is in health insurance, it's not going away. In fiscal year 2001, the town of Watertown budgeted $6.8 million for health insurance. In fiscal year 2008, we budgeted 11.9, or an increase of $5.1 million. We've got, in the next 3 fiscal years, increases projected to be 1.2 million, 1.4 million, and $1.5 million. We can't sustain that without looking at a different approach to some of the issues. Right now, our forecast, and remember, 2001, it was $6.8 million. In fiscal year 2011, 10 years later, we've got an estimated cost of about $16 million. So 6.8 in 2001, 10 years later, $10 million increase. One of the things you'll see later on that the council is looking for is for us to look at, as the governor had passed the Municipal Partnership Act, allowing cities and towns to potentially join the Group Insurance Commission. I think there's some merit to that. We're going to look to talk with our employees during the remainder of this calendar year. Well, actually, it has to be done between now and the end of September, having that discussion. That's an issue that we certainly very much want to look at because it's an issue that won't go away. Another issue that won't go away is the retirement appropriation. Currently today, we appropriate $7.2 million, which is about 8% of the general fund budget. There was an analysis done in the retirement appropriation as of January 1, 07. The unfunded pension liability is $43 million. That has to be paid off, if you will. Right now, the funding schedule adopted by the Retirement Board, it would be to be fully funded in fiscal year 2017. The board has been, for the first time, is looking to move forward with some hedge funds. They're also considering moving some funds into the Commonwealth's Pension Reserve Investment Trust, which is PRIT, which certainly economies to scale. You'd have an opportunity to do a better rate return instead of having just the Watertown Contributory Retirement Board do the investments. Joining PRIT with some of those monies, that would be helpful. And quite honestly, that investment, the monies that we can be made on funds that employees have contributed or the town has contributed, getting that paid off, the quicker that can happen, it would help the employees, it would help the retirees, and most importantly, it would help the citizens of the community. Quickly on the council policy guidelines, I spoke here a year ago. The council adopted policy guidelines. Some of the items that they did in fiscal year 08, I've already talked. 3 of them we incorporated in the fiscal year 2008 budget. One of them I mentioned about the strengthening the capacity of the community development and planning by adding a staff. The other one was seek to contain increases in health insurance by negotiating structural changes in health benefits for town employees, whether it be plan design or contribution rate. I've talked about that we're moving forward with that. The other item, we talked about the repair and improving the town's streets and sidewalks. So all 3 of those were incorporated in fiscal year 08. The fiscal year 09 budget guidelines the council have adopted, I'm not going to touch upon all of them. I'll tell you the top 3 continue to be control efforts in the containing health insurance costs. Another one is identify savings in energy costs. We all know what energy costs have done through an energy audit of the town buildings, and moving forward with that. In Watertown, in fiscal year '07, we appropriated for energy costs was $2.1 million. In fiscal year '08, it went up to $2.4 million, which is an increase of 14.5%. That's only going, and one of the things the council is looking to do is to have an energy audit, see if we can be more efficient in the utilization of taxpayers' dollars about energy efficiency. Additionally, I've already mentioned the roads and sidewalks. Surprise, surprise, is still number one within the councils looking to have that done. And the other thing the town would like to do in the spending of all the monies on the capital infrastructure is look to increase the capacity to maintain or address some of the facilities management or do some of the small things that can prevent bigger cost items down the line. Upcoming matters, and I'm coming down to close, I know you all want to head out, is one of the things that very, very pleased, we talked about this last year, is moving forward with the Coolidge School. As you recall, we had talked about negotiations for quite some time. There was a Coolidge School Reuse Committee that was formed in December of 2000. And that was a result of the schools relinquishing care, custody, and control of the former Coolidge School. There was 3 RFPs put out. There was a request to move forward in August 2005 with Mitchell Properties. Subsequent to that, the developer was pursuing grant funding through mass housing, home funds, and tax credits, and the town council had also commissioned 2 third-party reviews to be sure the Mitchell proposal was financially feasible and the soundness of the deal structure. So what the town gets out of this lease that was signed the end of November, the lease of the former school building is for 50 years. There's 2 20-year extensions. Mitchell Properties will be responsible for the renovating the building and bringing the building into code compliance. Mitchell Property will be completely responsible for all the expenses for the operation and the maintenance. And given this, Mitchell Properties will be investing over $15 million on the project, which will produce 38 market and affordable apartments for age 55 and over housing. And certainly the expectation of that is that it'll make the building itself for the first time handicapped accessible. There is going to be a local preference for the affordable units for Watertown residents for up to 70% of the 15 affordable units. What's going to happen over the 50-year lease is expected that through lease payments and tax payments that there will be a paying of $12 million over the 50-year lease to the community, and the construction is supposed to begin in the spring and take about a year to get done. So we're very, very pleased with that. I've got 2 items left. One of them is our library. We talked about the library before. That was our last signature capital project. We've got today with us our library director, Leon Cole, which, as I've indicated before, we're very, very pleased to have her. I maintain that she's one of the best library directors in the Commonwealth. That is, if the folks who live in Watertown or even the folks in Belmont who come over to utilize the library, that project was for $11.3 million. As you recall, we had the groundbreaking in August 2006. I respectfully suggest that not only the visits, but the circulation our visits back in 2004 were about 825 per day. We're up to over 1,100. The circulation is getting close to 500,000 materials. The library itself is a crown jewel of the community, and we're very, very pleased to have that. And the trustees, the library director, one of the things they're going to do this year is to reach out to the citizens to see how they're doing, what's going on with the library, what's good, what needs to be improved on. And prior to speaking to the last item of the police station, one of the things that, and many of the folks in Watertown know, that we last month lost. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Lucia Mastrangelo, who was the chair of the library trustees. My observations and interactions with Lucia, and I think she was sitting in this room a year ago, were in connection with the Fair and the Square, the 9/11 committee, and is the chair of the Watertown Free Public Library, and also as a cherished friend. Several years ago, when there was a debate about the Building Dreams Committee, discussions were going on about the possibility of building a new library. Some of the folks were saying the town doesn't need a bigger or better library, and the ones we have is fine. Well, Lucia's approach in this matter was quite clear and similar to one of Robert Kennedy's statements in his 1968 presidential campaign, which was, some men, in this case Lucia, some women, see things as they are and say why. And I dream of things that never were and say why not. And the Watertown Free Public Library today is the most utilized municipal facility in Watertown. And since the new library is open, as I indicated, the visits and the circulation have dramatically increased. The employees and the citizens of the community have been truly blessed with Lucia's presence, her tireless efforts, her professionalism, personal approach, and dedication. And again, as I indicated at the Town Council meeting on February 12th, a job well done, and thank you, Lucia. The existing police facility, and when I talked to the Belmont chief, he kind of indicated the same thing, was constructed 75 years ago in 1933 and consists of 13,500 square feet of area. Because of the current location, doesn't have the sufficient surrounding area adequate for the expanding of facilities to meet the needs of the immediate and future programming. It was determined that, as we indicated, that it'll be a new police station located at 552 Main Street. So keep in mind that the current police station is 13,500 square feet. The rendering you see here, design is going to be approximately 34,500 square feet, and will include a community meeting room available for training, meetings, and other public purposes. In addition, the adjacent municipal park will remain following the completion of the police facility that will also have improvements to the park itself. I mentioned earlier Councilor Canellis and Councilor Corbett. Councilor Corbett serves on the Police Station Building Committee. One of the things I was telling Mr. Younger and the chief from Belmont, McLaughlin, that the council, in their wisdom, wanted to move forward with a police station building committee. In my estimation, I haven't seen a building committee work so closely with the neighbors. You'll see right there, the issue was to try to incorporate this within the neighbors. They've come and made several presentations in all of the, and from the administration standpoint of view, the quarterback in Watertown for this project is Phyllis Marshall, our town treasurer collector, who's here and has been invaluable in keeping everyone. What the look here was to make sure that it would be consistent with the look and the feel of the homes and the historical properties in the neighborhood. As I indicated, the neighborhood folks have been coming to all the meetings. Another issue, we talked about energy before, we're looking to incorporate energy efficiency and cost-effective, sustainable building elements, provide localized control of lighting and HVAC, and maximize day lighting of work stations. With respect to the timing of it, we're looking to bid the project in April and May of 2008, looking to come before the council for appropriation to move forward with the project in June of this year. The estimated cost is $15 million. Groundbreaking is expected to occur, hopefully occur in July of 2008, and complete construction in March of 2010. So that's kind of a brief synopsis of what's going on in Watertown. I certainly, in closing, would look forward to working with everyone in this room, working with the town council, and continue to build on the progress we've made in providing the highest level of services to the citizens of Watertown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Driscoll. I will ask you to remain here and ask Mr. Younger to come up. And if anybody has any questions, you can direct it to either one of them, and they'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
This is a question for Tom Younger. Tom, I know they're developing the McLean Hospital site, but what is actually going on Tupelo Road, and will it empty onto Tupelo Road before you get to Mill Street?
Oh, the part that you actually see where there's work being done right now?
Yes.
That's in addition to, there's the Housing Authority property is adjacent to it. There's additional senior housing being built there and an additional parking lot for the Housing Authority. What you see will go down to the sidewalk, and there'll be a new sidewalk placed there. The other development hasn't taken place yet on that site, though.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Driscoll and Mr. Younger for their very informative presentations. To Mr. Younger, about the proposed development at the former CVS parcel, can you tell us a little bit more, the number of stories, and you spoke about underground parking, and how would that actually be accessed?
Okay,
Thank you.
sure, Angie. Remember, this is just all in the prototypical stage right now. As every person here knows, you're going through the planning board and through development, and things can totally change from what you originally see. The CVS building is actually still vacant. It's been vacant for a number of years. The site that we have seen, it's tough to indicate because it goes downhill. So when I say a third story, it may actually be literally a second story because of the way. It'll be a third story down on Trapella Road, but when you go upwards, it goes that way. The bottom level will be all retail space. On the second level, this is what's proposed from basically where the laundromat area is, downward toward where Chicken Express is and the auto parts dealer, would be both parking and a market. I believe a 20,000 square foot supermarket of some type would be there. And then going around toward the municipal lot would be retail and the parking. The parking, generally, if I recall from the plan, could be accessed from Common Street near where Horn Road would be, between CVS and the laundromat. You would have an entrance there. The other planned entrance is off of Trapella Road by where Starbucks is. And the third entrance would be, I believe, off of Willettston, where the parking lot entrances for now the current Belmont parking lot would be there. It would be all enclosed underground or above ground. There would not be any, if I believe, any open air parking on that site except for maybe an area for delivery trucks to go in and out.
My question is for both of you. One of the question us bankers are being asked these days, with the real estate market values going down, people ask us that their house is assessed more than what the value is today. And are the towns going to reassess the values, or if somebody wants to come to you, they can come and they say our value is less and we want our taxes go down?
Well, I mean, the good news is, as I indicated earlier, and we've got the chairman of the Board of Assessors in Watertown here, is that I indicated that the sales in 2006, residential sales of the residential values, the values in Watertown in residential properties dropped 3 to 8%. So the value dropped. Everyone's values dropped, but that's good news, bad news issue. But the taxes aren't going to drop. So I mean, one of the issues that if when you develop and when you have a tax amount to be collected, whether it be in Watertown and Belmont, if the value goes down, the tax rate goes up. So it's whatever the value in year one is, it's going to be 2.5% of it. And as we've talked about, whether it be health insurance, retirement, energy costs, and all that 2.5% increase is significantly hard to continue to provide the services to the community. So certainly the assessors, whether it be in Watertown and Belmont, continue to, if you will, always monitor both the residential and the commercial values. But if they are dropped, the residential properties dropping there, I would respectfully say to some of your bank clients that the value may go down, but the taxes will not. So.
Mike, could you give us an update on the parking in Watertown Square? Is anything going on in that?
Yeah, that was one, in my effort to try to get quickly through, that was one of the items that are upcoming. What the town council did is appropriated monies for a phase one study to determine what's, looking at what can be done in the Watertown Square area. That study is going to be coming forward shortly to Economic Development and Planning, bringing it forward to council. That was a first step of considering any type of structured parking or et cetera. So that will be coming to council very quickly on that process. One of the things that looking at there, when we talked about the Chief DeVoe and the men and women heading up Main Street in 2010, that's one of the issues that the police station would be becoming vacant. That's another area looking at it. So at this point, that's one of the, certainly sitting here a year from now would be providing, that's one of the to be determined issues from that. So that's kind of where we're at with that matter.
Great.
Thank you both, and thank you all for coming today. I also want to thank Bob Capralian from the Watertown Community Access Cable for giving us coverage and being here today. And before we leave, I just want to remind everybody that the Watertown Belmont Chamber of Commerce is doing their $10,000 annual raffle this Friday evening. We still have tickets available. If anybody's interested, you can see Stephanie or Connie on the way out, and certainly come by the chamber. We have our Taste of the Towns on Thursday, May 1st at the Hellenic Cultural Center. It's our big community event where the committee is out there soliciting the vendors, and hopefully it will be as successful, if not better, than last year. We had over 400 people attend. And our annual golf tournament is going to be Monday, May 19th, right back here at the Oakley Country Club. So we hope that you'll all support us in these events. And again, I thank you all for coming.